Alright, so this is my philosophy folder. I would consider my philosophy as medium high to high control. I really think that you can still be a high control teacher with organization and schedules and all of that, but still do it with love so that your students feel like they are cared for, feel respected, and that they can trust you and can learn in a comfortable and positive environment. So the first page is just more about my philosophy. Some of the philosophers that I would identify with would be Cantor and their assertive discipline theory. One thing I really liked about this theory was that you should teach the rules and discipline to your students, and also that you have the right to ask parents for help. I think that it's really important to build a relationship with your parents of the students, and they spend the most time with the students anyways, and so if you have a problem, they probably can help you with it. Not all the time, but you know. Another theorist I really liked was Dreiker's logical consequences. In this theory, he mentions that students need to make right what they do wrong. I really think it's important to teach students to see what consequences happen because of their actions, whether it be positive or negative, because every action that we have has a consequence, whether it's good or bad. And I also think that it's important to constantly deliver consequences, make it a routine so that students know where the consequence is coming from. So it's not just this random consequence, and they feel comfortable and they understand the why behind it. And the last theorist that I really liked was Kern and Mendler's discipline with dignity. I really think it's important to keep students' dignity intact, and one way to do this would be to have students help you with the discipline plan. I'll go into this a little bit more later, but I really think that it's important that students have some role with making the rules and the consequences so that they are held accountable more when they do make a mistake or misbehave. The next one is about democracy in the classroom. I have this foldable here. One thing that I really liked is that a democratic classroom allows you to provide students opportunities to make choices. And even though I want a high control classroom, I think that students need to have that independence and have the ability to make choices, because as an adult, that is like a total lifelong skill. You need to be able to make your own choices, weigh your options, figure out what you want to do first, and prioritize. Another thing that I mentioned in my philosophy statement and in some other tabs was that I want students to be able to compromise, interact with each other. I think it's really important to build those social skills in a democratic setting. I think you can still have democracy in your classroom even as a high control teacher. And another way you can do this is by having morning meetings and classroom meetings. And I think I would have a classroom meeting maybe once a month, and then as needed if we needed to talk about something as a class. And another thing was class jobs. I really think class jobs will be super helpful. It gives students a purpose, makes them feel important, and just gives them an opportunity to do something in the classroom. Next is about motivation. So for motivation, I think that it's really important to promote intrinsic motivation. One way to do this is just promoting independence, kind of like I was saying. You can still be high control, but give your students choices and have independence in the classroom, whether it just be something as simple as choosing the utensil that they use on an assignment or which assignment they get to complete first, even just little ways like that. Another thing is I wouldn't want to give a lot of physical rewards to students. I mean, there are places for things like tickets or just little rewards, but I really want to reward my students with more experiences rather than physical things like candy or a little prize. So that could be a field trip or some activity outside or inside, something that they can look forward to that's an experience, but um, doesn't make them need that external reward. The next thing would be over here. We have our rules and different consequences. So some rules that I came up with would be come ready to learn and treat others kindly, follow directions when they're given, and using inside voices and walking feet. This way they're all written positively so students don't feel uncomfortable. And another thing I think is really important is allowing students to help make the rules. So I would probably come up with the rules first before I go in, have the discussion with the students, and then discuss with them and have them, and kind of just not manipulate, but prompt them with questions that would help them come up with rules and consequences that I think that I want in my classroom, and then we can write them down as a class. That way they can be held accountable and they feel trusted and they feel like they can share their opinions in my classroom. And yeah, and some positive consequences that you can have in the classroom would be giving a high five to students who raise their hand. This is just promoting that positive behavior. Or you can do just sharing good ideas that students share with you. That way that their ideas can be shared with the class and they feel important also. Some negative consequences would making students leave an activity if they're misbehaving. I don't want that for my students because then they'd miss out on the lesson and that's another negative consequence. I'd rather take care of it later, maybe address it in a different way. Another negative consequence would be just going to the principal's office. I think that that's a last resort. I do not want to do that right away. Another thing is procedures. So this is in this middle section here. Some procedures I came up with were lining up with a looks like, sound like chart, morning procedures, and how to ask to go to the bathroom. For the bathroom one, I would have them use some sort of sign, maybe like this. That way it's silent and it's not disruptive, and I can just nod my head and tell them to go use the bathroom and write their name on the board, and then reminding them to wash their hands and then to come back and erase their name, and so that everything's quiet and runs smoothly. And another thing we have is interventions over here. So one mild intervention could be a student is just getting distracted with an object. Maybe you're doing a reading time with them. Something I would do if it's a one-on-one thing, I would just remove the distracting object as we're talking so that they just keep going with whatever's happening. Or if it's a big group thing, I could just give them the teacher look and it's silent and it's effective. Another moderate behavior would be student disrupting another student. With this one, I'd probably use proximity. I'd go around near the student. This would probably get them to stop, or if it kept progressing, then I could talk to them about it. But I would do proximity or give them a teacher look. I think the teacher look is really effective and it doesn't disrupt the rest of the class. And another chronic behavior is student is just not compliant with everything that you do in this situation. I would address it privately with them one-on-one so that they can still have their dignity and they don't feel uncomfortable in front of the whole class or embarrassed, but that they still are being addressed. And I'd also validate their feelings because there's obviously going to be some reason behind them not wanting to do anything that you're asking. So I would definitely try and validate their feelings and then help them understand why they need to do what I'm asking. Next would be the maps. So I have my direct instruction map right here. And this one I would definitely want to do a U shape of some sort. That way the focuses on me, and that way I can place students where they need to go. And with the group instruction, similar, I would have them facing the board as well so that they can still work together, but if I need to do direct instruction at the same time, I can. And I just have the narrative over here and have the philosophy paper. And we have some handouts. We have beginning of school procedures and the democratic classroom with morning meetings and just some pros and cons of democratic classrooms. So thanks for watching.